Sono presenti in prestito alla nostra facoltà, dobbiamo approvarli.
Of course, first, let me thank you all for your wonderful comments, and Oscar, most especially, for inviting me. I have to apologize because while we were traveling abroad, I encountered a very bad cold. So in addition to my usual voice problems, I am now struggling through a cold. So I hope you'll bear with me. Now, thank you. I am honored to be here, happy to converse with you. I don't like making speeches. I don't like giving lectures. I prefer to converse with people and to hear what you have to ask and to say. Because it seems to me, as I told the young television journalist who was just here, that the most important thing that we as journalists must learn to do is to listen, not to talk. I am a talk show host, but my most important task is to listen. And if you can learn to listen carefully, you will have won half the battle.
Thank you, Katya. Katya asks, if you were to be asked to communicate the most important things that you've learned through the questions made to you by your audience over the years, what would come to your mind?
I think, as I have just said, that learning to listen to a variety of people, learning as I do in the studio each and every day, to watch that person, to listen with my eyes as well as with my ears, to understand that the eyes, the body, the arms communicate, and that every single element of that form of communication is important to the whole picture. When I hear a caller, I am in Washington, D.C., and when I hear a caller from Dallas, Texas, talk to me about what's going on in that community, I can hear in that voice differences from what I hear in Washington, and yet sometimes there are similarities. So you must learn to listen. We also have a number of people who call us from around the world. They call us from China. They call us from the Philippines. They call us from the Virgin Islands. They call us from Hawaii, or they call us from Brussels. They call us from around the world. But always the questions are so intense because they are concerned about what's happening in the world, and they call to express those concerns.
She asks, yes, with your through your contact with the public, the radio public, which participates in your show, do you believe that the media
mirrors and confronts and comments correctly on the real worries of the citizens?
When we talk about the media today, it is no longer a single entity. It is this vast culture of radio, of television, of the internet, of satellite, of blogs. People are communicating and being communicated to through newspapers in so many different ways that it is hard, impossible to classify any media as being the media. Now you can get your information from 100 different sources. Take your pick, find the opinion that you like, and that's the media you will turn to. I can turn to the Wall Street Journal and get one opinion. I can turn to the Financial Times and get another opinion. I can turn to the Washington Post or the Washington Times. I can turn on CNN. I can turn on Fox News. I can turn on all these various media and get different opinions and different ideas from different people. And they are now more opinion, unfortunately, than they are necessarily fact, because the line between fact and opinion has become increasingly blurred in the media.
She asks, what famous person that you have interviewed have you found to be the most important in forming you or in helping you to become a better journalist?
In my 26 years on the air, I have interviewed perhaps more than 50,000 people. Right? So therefore, to select one person who has been the guiding force would be very difficult for me. However, one person who spent 17 years in prison and then solitary confinement became a person I was very close to. However, I have interviewed the President of the United States within the Oval Office. I was the first radio journalist ever to do so, and that was President Bill Clinton. He was in a cabinet meeting when I arrived. He made us wait for 4 hours.
Gli ha fatto aspettare 4 ore.
And then, finally, he came out of the cabinet room saying, "God, my allergies are killing me." He was a wonderful man to interview, but not the person who taught me the most. The person who taught me the most about what to do in terms of being a radio host was probably my mentor, my first boss, a woman who said to me, "You can do this," and she allowed me to do absolutely everything to learn my way. I was an apprentice to her for 2 years, and then went off to do television, to do other radio, and then came back to take over this radio program.
He mentions that often in Italy, when you're interviewing a politician, at least in Italy, the politicians tend often to respond the way they feel like responding, kind of just using their question as a
You're
jumping.
right.
Correct, giustissimo.
In the U.S., the same.
And then he asked if it was the same in the States. Sì, esattamente la stessa cosa in America.
And that's the question. So what did they do
Qual è la
in the
domanda?
U.S.? The fact is that you must continue to follow up when they respond in the way that they have already planned to respond. You must continue to pursue, which is why before that politician comes on to your program, you must be prepared. You must know your subject so that he doesn't or she doesn't slip away.
Immagino sia molto affascinante fare un
He says he can imagine how interesting it is to have a radio program with listeners calling in, etc. But he also asks if it must sometimes turn out to be a little risky. In your long, illustrious career, what has been maybe the most embarrassing moment? As far as with a phone call.
Two examples.
Due esempi?
One with someone in the studio.
Uno è successo con la persona nello studio.
And one helped because of a phone call. Helped.
Ed uno
Assisted. After the Nixon papers came out, and it was revealed that he had tape recorded almost every single conversation,
e si scopre.
including, I had a program which included his former counsel. There were 5 people in the studio, and me.
Più Diane.
5 men.
5 uomini.
5 men. And I tried to give each one enough time to respond. There were some who loved President Nixon and others who loathed President Nixon. And at one point, the counsel to President Nixon said, he got up from his table and said, "You're not giving me enough time to speak. And if you don't give me more time, I won't come back to this program again." And I said, "You'll never be invited."
E lei ha risposto non le inviteremo mai. Se n'è andato.
He left. Now, there was another time. Tom Clancy. Do they know Tom Clancy?
Conoscete Tom Clancy? C'era un'altra volta Tom Clancy.
Tom Clancy, novelist, very famous.
Scrittore estremamente famoso in tutto il mondo.
He came into the studio wearing dark glasses. He would not take his glasses off.
E non li voleva togliere.
He wouldn't even look at me.
Non voleva neanche guardarla negli occhi.
Instead, he sat down and put his hand up like this.
Invece di guardarla si è seduto e ha messo la mano bloccando la faccia. Così lei non poteva neanche vedere la sua faccia.
So I thought, uh-oh, I'm in trouble. So I thought of a question I thought he would like to answer. And so I asked him the question, expecting a good answer. And he said, yup.
E la sua risposta era yep, yeah, sì, già, stop.
So I thought, I'll ask him another question. Maybe he didn't like that question.
Quindi si è detto, gli faccio un'altra domanda, forse non gli è piaciuta questa prima domanda, gli faccio
I'll
un'altra.
ask him another question. So I did, giving him an opportunity to expand, and his response was, nope.
E ha risposto nope, e molto slang quasi significa no, nope.
So I'm looking at the clock.
E guardava l'orologio, si chiedeva.
And I'm thinking, oh my God, what am I going to do?
Oh no, cosa farò io con tutto questo tempo che ho?
So I thought, well, I have a choice. I can either say to him, Mr. Clancy, you clearly don't want to be here. Would you like to leave? Or I can open the phones and let the public ask him questions. Perhaps he'd be happier with that. So I opened the phones. First question from a man who said, Mr. Clancy, I love your books, but you sure are being haughty with our Diane. So he took off his glasses, he threw them on the table, and he said, oh no, we're having a wonderful time, aren't we, Diane? And the fellow on the phone said, well, it sure doesn't sound that way to us, Mr. Clancy. And from then on, he was a pussycat.
E da quel momento in poi era un gattino nelle sue mani, bonaccione, insomma.
So, you use the phone to your advantage. You go to the phone when you need to. Here is how it works. I am in my studio with my guest. I have a computer in front of me.
Ha un computer davanti a sé.
On that computer screen are the list of callers, where they're calling from, and a few words about what they want to say. And with the engineer sits the young woman who takes those calls. She types it and puts it on my screen so I know who those callers are. So then I can work their comments in wherever we are in the conversation. I also have protection.
Ne ha anche protezione.
I have a 7-second delay so that if someone says something that the Federal Communications Commission would object to, they can be cut off. Other questions?
Prossima domanda.
La sua carriera va avanti da...
La sua your career. You understand? Your career has now gone on for more than 25 years. Is there anything in your field which you still haven't done, which you still would like to accomplish, to do?
I think what I would most like to do is to help people understand how complicated issues really, really are. I think for too many people, the issues are black and white, one side or the other. And I would like people to understand that if they are willing to listen to others in a caring way, that will help us all to grow as human beings and to care about the world as a whole, not just our little part of it. Thank you all so much for coming. Absolutely not. Please, please.
Listening to the conversation, he thinks this has been a wonderful opportunity.
Lei che volevo chiedere,
You who communicate with really the whole world, the question is this then. In your opinion, what need is there, therefore, for people to confess themselves publicly?
To confess.
Opinioni. The need to publicly take off one's mask, explain oneself, put oneself in play publicly. What need is there?
I think that in my own professional life, it is more important to keep my own opinions to myself, because if I am telling you what I think, then you are going to put me in a pigeonhole. I want to call in because our guests are such wonderful explainers of issues, and they help people to understand what those issues are. But they call in anonymously. They do not say who they are, but they do have the opportunity to speak with the most famous people in the world. I hope that answers. Thank you all so much for coming. Good to see you.
No one could understand what I was talking about. She came out.